This video is kindly sponsored by Project Red. Check the link in the description to find out more. This video is made possible by 3D Musketeers, offering full-service product development, prototyping, and production, helping you make awesome from art to part. Links in the description. Hello everyone! Welcome to this week's Meet a Maker. Today I am very, very excited because we are talking to a dear friend of mine, Joe Spanier. Hello, Joe.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. This is it's been a crazy day already, and I'm really excited to be on this side of the microphone.
Yeah, normally
interview.
you're on the other side.
Yeah.
You actually the first interview I ever did on Makers on Tap.
Really?
Yeah. I remember getting all excited and setting up my laptop and freaking out about it for days beforehand.
You handled it well. You
Really?
handled it well.
Oh,
like a true professional.
Well, thank you for inviting me on. That was awesome. And you guys were so comfy to talk to as well. So, yeah, I think I learned a lot.
Good. Yeah, we try to be as welcoming and inviting as possible. So
You definitely are. I have felt, you and Aaron and Chris, you've all been just so welcoming of me, and I feel like you've introduced me to so much of the maker community. I just feel really, really blessed to have known you and to be involved in VEF and stuff that we've done and Ignite Peoria and stuff. It's just very lovely.
Well, it's been an absolute blast, and you helping us host all of those things has been immensely helpful, more than you know. So thank you.
Well, yeah, very, very fun. But here we want to talk about you. So tell us about you. Who are you? What do you do? What are you known for? What do you want to be known for?
Oh, what do I want to be known for? So my name's Joe Spanier, and I make stuff. I'm probably most well known for right now the Makers on Tap podcast that I host with my friends Aaron and Chris. And we try to do it weekly. It hasn't been weekly lately, but we do a regular podcast where we bring people like Billy on and we just talk about making stuff. Or sometimes we don't bring anybody on and we talk about making stuff and the struggles, and sometimes they get really real, but they're tons of fun. But in my maker life, I'm really heavy into digital fabrication. So if it is machines making stuff, I'm probably into it. But I don't like making the things with the machines. I like building the machines way more. So I build CNC machines. I have a whole shop full of CNC routers and retrofit mills and lasers and 3D printers that I've built over the last 10 years. And that's kind of been my thing.
And you do it so amazingly well. And you just have, how did you get to know so much about CNC and 3D? I suppose 3D printers are kind of CNC, but how did you get into all that? Because you really have accumulated such a wealth of knowledge. It's really obvious whenever you talk about it. So how did you get to there?
Be incredibly obsessive. So
a hyper-focus kind of deal.
yeah, but never stop. So I actually got into making CNC machines and stuff through my job, which at the time I was a CNC programmer for Caterpillar. They make large yellow earth moving equipment. Yes.
Yes.
And I
even have those here.
And I had fun, but I could tell that I wasn't as focused on my job as I should have been when I compared myself to my coworkers. And I spent a lot of my time researching the best filtration methods for cichlids and building out aquariums and stuff, and not researching feeds and speeds.
A tangent to the maker community, because I swear, so I keep fish. I know Angus keeps fish. It's a thing. There's lots of makers who keep fish. Sorry, such a tangent, but continue.
No, not at all. We can go back to that. But I said, okay, I have to figure out how to make my job my hobby for at least a little while so I could care more. It's the only way I can. So I started talking to some of the maintenance guys that worked on the machines all the time. I was like, how could I build one of these at my house? And this was 10 years ago. So like kits didn't exist. They kind of did. They were starting to. And the Shoreline small benchtop mills and lathes existed. And they had like CNC retrofit kits at the time. And there was a company called Probotics that built the Fireball CNC. It was a little desktop CNC router. And so I found those guys. And then I found out that their shop was 5 minutes from where I worked.
No way.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I bought their like 3-axis CNC kit, and I found these plans called the Rocklith CNC plans, which look an awful lot like a Prusa, or it's like
a bed slinger kind of deal. Yeah,
fixed gantry. And I went there to pick up my 3-axis kit, and I met the owner, Lynn, and a guy who I'd known from a past life as a car audio installer. We worked for rival car audio shops. And I walked in and I was like, oh God, Jeremy's here. Is this going to be okay? And he kind of looked at me, and we had this moment of like, it'll be fine. And then we ended up becoming really good friends through the CNC community.
That's awesome.
And, it just became kind of an obsession for like 4 years until I found 3D printing.
Yeah.
And I actually got 2 different promotions out of building my own CNC and like caring enough to write my own post processors and learn more about CAM and all of that stuff on my own time. They resulted in me moving into manufacturing research and supporting a huge 5-axis CNC machines and robotics. And then I went into true research where I was running the research projects and diving into robotics, and which actually leads me to a later tangent that has a little bit to do with what we talked about a couple days ago. And then that was what led me into 3D printing. Was a guy in the research group had bought a whole bunch of Prusa Mendel kits, and with the idea that he was going to start a print farm in his apartment, because like at the time it was the whole print it forward idea, right? You built a Mendel, and then you made kits and you sold them for $35 on eBay, and that was what we did. And so he had one of those, and I bought it from him for a couple $100, and I built a Prusa Mendel, and it didn't print well at all.
That was kind of how it was, though. I think there was that era of like really dodgy prints, which almost spoiled it a little bit because everyone expected it to be awesome, and then it was like not awesome, and then now they are awesome, but people still have that tainted view when they're outside the community. I think like the community knows. Yeah, it's like a little bit. It definitely like went on the corner of my bench for like 6 months, and a kilogram of filament lasted me like 2 years. Wow. Yeah.
Because it just didn't work very well. And then I ended up in additive manufacturing research at work. Wow. And I saw what good 3D prints really looked like. And I was like, yeah, all right, I'm all about the underdog, right? I've never had an iPhone. I've never had like a Mac. I always buy like the little guy, and like, I'm going to make it as good as the big guy. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to make the Prusa print as good as this thing. And it was a Stratasys machine. And I did. That's
awesome.
But it took a lot of work and a lot of talking through the community. This was back when Google Plus was a big deal.
I was going to ask, yeah.
That was how I met people like Eric. And then Eric Lean. And then once I figured out how to make that thing print even a quarter well, it was an obsession. And I started designing 3D printers, started going to RepRap Fest, and just meeting everybody I could and constantly talking to people and constantly learning. And yeah, it was like drinking from a fire hose for a few years.
I definitely feel that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Wow. And so it's a few concepts back, but I love the idea of you recognizing that you weren't fully engaged in your work and then making the decision to turn it into a hobby so that you would become engaged. Like, I reckon that's just a really interesting thought pattern and something I suppose I hadn't considered before in my own life. But I love that that's where you went with it, because clearly you were very successful going down that path and you actually did genuinely come to enjoy it. So I don't know, is that something you came up with, or did you hear that from somewhere? Or I wanted to reflect a little more on that. I think that's just the coolest thing. Yeah.
Well, I really like engineering. I went to school for manufacturing engineering, mechanical engineering, and electrical engineering. It just depended on the time and place. I only graduated from one of those, but I did all of it.
They kind of call that mechatronics, I think, now, don't they?
Yeah, that was kind of what I ended up with. I actually, cool. I went to school I graduated with an industrial engineering degree. So I really should be a quality engineer. I have no idea how to do that.
Well, industrial's cool too, because you got the design as well. You just have a bit of everything with all of those. That's awesome. Like, no wonder you're so good at what you do. It's so broad knowledge behind you. Yeah.
I ended up in a lot of the right places. That was mostly it.
Well, you seem to talk to a lot of people, so that probably helps.
Yes. It was... I knew I wasn't going to make a good living breeding fish.
They sell for like $6 or whatever.
Well, I probably could have, but like it wasn't in the cards
special
for me at the time, and I wanted to stay in engineering. I really liked what I was doing, but I knew I needed to be able to focus more on it, and I just kind of recognized that, like, if I am not like driven by it, I'm probably not going to focus on it. And it was just kind of one of those key moments, right? So I was learning how to program industrial robots at the time, learning how to program CNC machines at the time, and there was so much learning going on. And then I was learning how to do completely different things on my spare time, and one of them really kept my interest, and one of them was like, gotta look at this again. All right. Yeah. And I just wanted to make my own stuff. It's hard to care about making a gear day in and day out if you never see the end result of that gear. Like, if the gear is the end result, it's like, it's a gear. Gear manufacturing is like a wild world of numbers that are theoretical and don't make any sense. And it's like, well, if we make this imaginary tangent here and we do this here, we get the module of the tooth geometry. And also, if we rotate it at this speed while we're cutting it, we'll get a proper involute angle. And it's like, what are you? Yeah. What black magic who came up with this? Somebody much smarter than me. But I could program.
All calculus is like that to me. I'm just like, I can't. The only calculus I get is vector calculus, and I think it's because of 3D printers. Like,
probably.
Space. And then everything else, I'm just like, why is there 50 different rules for slightly different things? I can't work out what to apply where. Yeah. I'm
not good at math. I never have been.
I used to be, but then I stopped, and then I tried to go back to uni, and I was like, what even is this? Yeah, it's all gone. Anyway, yeah, sorry, such tangent.
No. Yeah, that's going to be this whole podcast, so sorry.
I think they're used to it. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
They're not. Don't know what they're doing here.
Is really what it is.
Yeah. Nothing pod and succinct about it.
No.
Very cool. So you obviously dove into 3D printing. We were touching upon that. And then what happened? Like, where did you go from there? Because you're not still working for Caterpillar now. What happened in the in-between?
Oh, so...
You don't have to.
No, it's fine. I had this moment. I was like, I think I was 31 or 32. And I really had the realization that working is trading life for money units. Trading time for money units, right? So time is the one thing we don't get back. Money units we can always make more of. And I was doing cool stuff. I had started a corporate makerspace. I had done the corporate initiative for desktop printing, like across the world. I deployed like 400 lulzbots to
That's
people
amazing.
in China, India, Germany, Italy, all over the US. And then was like their point support person for a while, and that was interesting. And this was back when 3D printing was hard. This was before auto bed leveling.
Before PLA and before,
PLA had just become a thing.
All
metal hot ends were like becoming a thing. No auto bed leveling. But even though I was doing really cool stuff, I wasn't happy. I was like coming to work every day and I was like, I wonder if this is the day where I'll get fired. And I didn't feel bad about that. And that was when I was like, I should probably start figuring something else out. And so I jokingly made a comment to one of the sales representatives at Lulzbot. They had flown to Peoria for the opening of our corporate makerspace, and they brought us 2 prototype TAS 6s, and it was really cool. And I was like, if you guys ever need a remote anything, just let me know. And they went back and they had talked about it, and they called me and they're like, got a couple positions open, you should apply for one. And I was like,
yes.
All right. So I did, and I got the job. And it was a moment of, how people say never meet your heroes? It was like that.
Okay.
So I guess Lulzbot now isn't Lulzbot then. It's a completely different company with different ownership and probably, I hope, different corporate philosophies. But on my first day, I had a moment of like, what did I do? Was this a good decision? And it was, but it wasn't. It was because it got me out of my corporate job, got me out of the golden handcuffs and into a realm where I could really be me and not necessarily, put on the collared shirt every day and like hope that I don't make the wrong person mad. But
I feel this so hard. Sorry. I left my corporate job this year and I'm like, yes, I feel this. Yeah. Continue there. Sorry.
But it wasn't because Lulzbot was insane to work for. So I spent 9 months there working remotely, and I learned a lot about myself working remotely as a remote engineer, mostly that I probably had ADHD, and like things like my coworkers reminding me to go eat was a really big deal because now I didn't have coworkers to remind me to eat. Yeah, and like organizing my time was really hard, and but it was a really cool experience. And then I had an opportunity to go work at a local startup that was doing some really amazing things with natural textiles and making them like high performance fabrics. And it was with a team of people from my makerspace, and we were basically like taking lab scale to industrial scale, and we had like free reign of how to do that. So
that's so cool.
It was cool. So I had an opportunity to do that for about 2.5 years. And then I went to Murph on the last Murph that actually happened, and came back, and they had eliminated my job the next day.
Of course,
so
yes. I remember.
Yeah, that was cool.
When that happened. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. So then I spent the next year as a consultant doing what I do. I played around with being a professional maker for a little while, figured out that I'm okay at that, but I don't like chasing the next contract or the next money opportunity. I played around with being in a robot mercenary. So, like,
what is that?
So when you're in industrial automation, there's always a need for more people. Always. There's not enough of us.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always opportunities, if you know the right people, to just show up at a place like an auto manufacturer and work on a robot for a weekend and make money.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I did that a little while, and it was super cool. And now I'm at a what are we? We're a automation / product development engineering firm with about 10 other guys, and I can work on effectively anything I want as long as it brings in money. And right now I'm working on really, really big 3D printers. You saw some pictures. How big is
really big? Yeah.
Of the stuff that they make. They make like the build areas are measured in tens of feet.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Just for people who haven't seen, what does that technology kind of look like? Like, to what extent you can talk about it or whatever. I don't know what you can talk, but like, how does it work? How do you print that big?
Man, it is so low tech. It's insane. I'm trying to think of like how much is NDA'd and how much isn't. And this is part of the problem of like a lot of the stuff I do. It's behind NDA walls. Okay, so there is a public video. If you Google U.S. Army 3D printing, I think barracks or letter B hut, you can see a video of the first generation printer.
Awesome. I will pop a link to that in the description.
That is public knowledge. So
awesome.
Yeah, it is as low tech as it gets. Let me tell you, there is not a lot that's special about it other than it's huge.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, cool.
It is. It's super cool. And it's exciting because I was on the team that conceptualized this. And then that team got disbanded right before I quit Caterpillar. And then I, like, by happenstance, ended up back on a different team that didn't even know the first team existed to do this. And it's,
That's
it's kind
amazing.
of like a fate thing, I think.
Yeah.
And it all rolls back into like what I do as a hobby. Like, all of it resulted from me building silly CNC machines and 3D printers.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, so cool. And I mean, it makes sense that when you're engaged with something, you do it really well. And yeah, it just makes perfect sense. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Sorry, just sinking in.
No.
I wanted... sorry. No, you go.
Yep, you're sure. Go ahead.
Okay. I was gonna ask, can we talk a little bit more about the textiles you were making? Just because my personal interest is a lot in textiles. Was it a form of rayon, or like, just because you said it was natural based, right? Like, how?
So
what was that? More. I want more.
I have 6 more months on my NDA, so let's see.
Okay.
Okay, so everything is natural fiber based. Cotton, hemp, et cetera, and there is a chemical process done to it, and on the other side it acts more like a monofilament or a synthetic fiber.
Yeah, so I know that's roughly how rayon is made, or tencel, or
yeah, rayon still has I think it has polypropylene in it. That's
Oh,
added
does
to
it? I had no idea.
I think so.
Oh,
Rayon,
okay. Good to
Rayon
know.
has some synthetics to it.
Ah, okay.
This on the other side is still completely natural.
Nice.
And now the company has pivoted some to making synthetic leather products.
Cool.
Yeah, and like it was frustrating because those like 2D products like that were what I came to the company to work on, and then right when they pivoted to work on that was when they were like, "Well, Joe doesn't need to be here anymore." So, but it's cool. It resulted in me learning a whole bunch about myself, and it all worked out for the best. So it's fine.
Sometimes that's the way of it. But
I still have stock in the company.
Nice. I think having a plant-based sort of alternative to leather is so cool because cattle is so destructive to the environment.
And every other leather in existence is oil-based. And
yeah.
So it's a really big deal because our petroleum dependence is huge. And the CEO always used to say, we'll never get the last barrel of oil in existence on the earth because it'll be too expensive by then. So we'll see. It's a weird,
very cool,
weird thing.
Yeah. Oh, well, you said that when you were working at Caterpillar, you were already trying to work out filtration systems and stuff for your cichlids, which are fish, if anyone doesn't know. Yes. And so have you always been a maker, like since you were really young, or did that develop over time?
Since I was young. Did
something inspire you, or like where did it come from?
My grandpa was an electrical engineer, and he actually put some of the first CNC machines that existed in Caterpillar.
Wow.
They were based on like vacuum tubes and relays and stuff. So when I started building CNC machines in my garage, he was just like, "What are you doing? That's not possible." I have this really funny memory of him coming to my house on my birthday, and for the last like forever years, I've taken the week of my birthday because it's Thanksgiving week usually.
Oh, cool.
Off and built a machine that week, or like focused on a project for that week, and that was my first largest format CNC router that I'd ever built. Was building it that weekend. And he just kind of looked at me like I was an idiot when I told him what I was doing. And then he came over later that week, and I'd made him a little plaque on it, and he was just like, I'm blown away.
That's awesome.
So,
that must have been so cool.
It was. It really was. I remember I was 6, and I got my first hammer from my aunt. I still have that hammer. So I've built things and taken things apart for as long as I can remember. My dad and I, when it was my dad's weekend, we would just like go to the lumber yard and buy like $100 in lumber and come home and build ramps for skateboards and
that's awesome.
Stuff like that. So I've always had that going on around me and in me.
That's super cool. Yeah, it's surprising how many people have family who support them and stuff. Like what? You look like you lit up. Were you going to say something? No.
I was just sitting up. Reminding
I need to do that too, actually. If I sit down too long, I start yawning because I hunch and then, I don't know, squish my lungs or something.
Yeah.
When you like have time, like you were talking about over Thanksgiving, to like sit and focus on a project, what is your creative process like? Like, where do you draw your inspiration, and how do you work through your problems? Like, what does that look like for you?
I read your questions, and this was the one that was hard for me.
We can skip it if
No. It was a good thought exercise. I don't know. Usually there's either an end goal, I want a machine that does X, or through like some organic process, I have ended up on a tangent that needs to be solved. And when I get time to do it all, I think like this last year and a half, I've really developed more of a process. Because before it was always just like, oh well, I need we'll take the massive, which was my giant Z CNC or 3D printer, for example, and it was like, well, I need a project for Murph, and I just quit Lulzbot, and it was like 3 weeks until Murph, and I was like, all right, I need a project. Went in the garage, found a bunch of crap, and was like, we can build a machine out of this. And the end goal of that was I wanted a machine that served no real purpose but would start a conversation. So I built.
Yeah, well, you definitely did that because I heard about it, even though I never went to math.
Did you hear about it from me?
No, I don't think so. So.
Even better.
Yeah.
I'm glad. So I built a 3D printer that had a 12-inch by 12-inch by 8-foot tall build area, and in like 3 weeks, and it wasn't a good printer, but it printed one rocket and it printed it well, and we printed a 7.5-foot tall space plane in 14 hours.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
How was the nozzle big? How did you make that happen? That's crazy. I didn't realize it was so quick.
Yeah, so I modified a 1.2 millimeter volcano nozzle to be 2 millimeters. And I remachined the nozzle so it had a flat to like smooth everything out. So we could do 2 millimeter layer heights with a 2.5 millimeter layer width. And then we put a huge stepper motor on a Titan, and we're printing. I never did the volumetric calculation, but we were doing spiral vase at like 100 millimeters per second, and to get PLA to flow through it, we were printing it at 290.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
That was what I could do without modifying firmware. Otherwise, we would have gone hotter.
Wow, that is amazing. Yeah, I didn't realize it was so quick. That's astounding. Wow.
The even scarier part was I finished wiring the machine on Saturday night at Murph at like 11:30, and they kick us out at midnight. So right before midnight, John was coming around and telling everybody that they needed to leave, and I was like, John, let me click print and see the first layer go down. And he's like, when the lights go out, I'm locking the doors. So
yeah,
we clicked print. I set my laptop up with a webcam that I could access from my phone, and we just watched and hoped we didn't burn the building down.
Oh my God.
You say that, but I feel like there's a lot of that happens at Murph. I don't feel like I'm the only one that's ever done this. And we showed up the next day, and the rocket was 4 feet tall, and there was like 4 wraps of filament on the 3 kilogram roll.
Wow. So just in time.
Yeah, it became a mad scramble. Like, who's got a roll of filament we can buy?
Quick! It's still going. So, wow, that's awesome. I love it.
My old buddies came through and brought us another roll of filament.
Oh, that's good.
But anyway, the design process of that was, I have a problem. Here's the crap I have to solve it. File new in Fusion, and fight through that for a few days, and then fix all the problems that I didn't catch in CAD on the fly. It's a bad process that I don't recommend anybody do.
But it works.
It did work. It has served me serviceably. I won't say well, and I won't say bad, because I usually get the problems solved. this thing, the milk crate, it's been a whole different design process. I've like made really good lists with like post-it notes in my notebook.
Awesome. Oh, you're a fan of the dot grid too. I am a dot grid fan as well.
Yeah. I'm a fan of post-it notes on the dot grid. Mostly because I can make lists upon lists upon lists and then check them off. Like, I have found this has been the year of me trying to get organized, and I am okay. So I found 3 things. I'm all about lists. Lists on my phone do me no good. Lists in my notebook it's like this sense of permanence that it holds me to them, versus my phone. I can just swipe the notification away and then I forget that it's there. But this, like, every time I open my notebook, it's there. It's in my face. I'm like, God, I need to make hinges for this stupid thing. So,
yep.
But the other thing is, and I went to a talk from Jay Pearson from Pearson Precision or Pearson Manufacturing. They make work holding for CNC machines at a trade show a couple of years ago. And he was talking about how he does so much now. Like, he started his company and started CNC machining so he could ride his mountain bike more instead of going to work. And it's turned into like this huge industry, and he still wants to ride his mountain bike. So he's always trying to find ways to save time. And he found that writing things down and making lists freed his mind to not deal with the minutia. And I was like, that makes sense, but I feel like if I write it down, I'm still going to have it in my head. And he was 100% right. Like, the minute I write it down, it's not in my head anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's there, but I know it's there, and I don't have to remember that it's what it is. I know in my list, there's all the things I have to do, and I don't have to think about those things anymore. It makes them so much 100%. Less pressing and freeing. And it's been incredible to find that. And, it's still a process to keep up with it and remember that I do need to check my list, but to know that it's there. I just, try every couple days to just go through my notebook and make sure that all my check boxes have X's in them.
So you do a bit of a bullet journal kind of deal then with the check boxes and stuff. Like
I tried to do the bullet journal thing, and like, it was too much to remember. Like, there's all the things.
There's all rules. Yeah, I don't do the full thing either, but I do the check boxes. Like, that was awesome for me. Like, making notes and then having check boxes next to anything I actually had to do. Yeah.
Yeah, and the table of contents in the front of the journal, I do that. Yeah. Because I have a lot of things I need to think about. But
it's so true though. Like, writing it down, it's like you're freeing up your RAM and not using it like storage memory. Like, because you put it external. Instead of caching it,
we're putting it in the hard drive and forgetting it's there.
Exactly. Yeah. It's really good. I completely agree. And it doesn't sound like it would do much, but it really does. And like, if you're lying awake at sleep at night, if you have like a pen and notepad, you can just scroll things down. It's like, then you can sleep because you're not just turning it over and over in your head. And I totally agree. 100%.
I really want to find bullet journal post-it notes. Like, I have grid post-its, and these are guys, but I want bulleted post-its so I can put the post-its in my bullet journal. Because I found these little notebooks. They're 5.7 by 8.5, and I like them because they're spiral, so they flip easily, unlike all the journals that have bindings. And they're a like craft paper cover, so I can laser etch the cover and like make them look like whatever.
Yeah, of course. Lovely.
Yeah. But there's not very many pages in them, so I hate to burn pages with lists that can be on post-it notes. So yeah, that's become a thing.
I've started using a binder, like a 6-ring. I have it here actually. This is my binder. And so I can move the pages around, and there's like sections for different stuff, like videos or like social stuff or whatever.
Oh wow.
And I also found stone paper, they call it, but it's just reusable paper. It's like made out of a polymer and gypsum, I think. And anyway, you can just wash it under the tap. So I write a lot of lists that I know aren't permanent on this. So like things I know I'll just do in a day or whatever, they get taken down on here, and then I just go and wash them all eventually. Because like you write with a pen, like a friction pen, like an erasable pen, and then you can just wash them off, which is what I've started doing. But yeah, I like being able to organize them into sections. But I do find also that sometimes if I don't flip to that section, I don't necessarily remember I need to do that thing. So part of me is like, should I go back to the journal where I do actually have to flick through and notice the things, or keep it this way? I'm kind of, I've tried it both ways, and I feel like none is quite perfect for me, but I'm liking the 6-ring binder thing.
Yeah. Well, and like, you'll probably get used to it, and like, I find the more that I do it, the better I've gotten about like sitting down and writing it down. The sleep thing, I usually fill out all my lists before I go to bed, and it's like, all right, now I'm gonna crash. And it's been so helpful this year. It's amazing. Yeah. It's crazy what it does. Yeah, I love organization techniques, and I think I've been on a similar journey to you, because like this craft room that I'm sitting in right now is a huge example of it. When I was growing up and for most of my life, anywhere that I was creative, anywhere that I owned, like my bedroom or whatever, was literally just piled with stuff, like a hoarder. Like I would have to, there were little goat trails through it where I could get from one end to the other or whatever, or pick out the supplies I wanted to use to make my next project. And it's not like that anymore. It's quite orderly, and it's been a bit of a journey, and I'm going to make a video about it. I put some like, what should I make a video about ideas, and that came out the top by far. And I'm and I voted for it.
Oh, you did? Oh, cool. Yeah. So I've done the script, and I just got to work out and make sure that it's in the right order and everything, because it's kind of like a bunch of tips, but I also want it to flow in some sort of sense, because it's just kind of this weird reflection piece of me having gone. Anyway, I'm rambling, but there's a lot to it. It's not a natural thing to just be organized, or it wasn't for me. Maybe it is for some people, but
and same for me. Like my office was a huge mess. My garage is a huge mess. And as I get more organized with like the journal thing, I'm slowly getting my space organized, and it's so freeing to not have to wade through piles of shit to get anything done. And just having everything so efficient, you can just grab it and do it. Because I would tell people, I know where everything is in my piles of crap, but reflecting back on it, I really didn't. And it took me so long to wade through, pick out all the little bits from all the different places that they were, wherever the last abandoned project was, and then put them together, and then I'd forget something and be darting in and out, and I wouldn't be able to actually use the space. I'd have to take it to the living room or something, because there was no room in the space. So it's just, Yeah, I'm exactly the same, and it's killing me because I see it in my kids. Right, like kids' spaces are like this too, and I'm just like, guys, you got to be clean, you got to like get orderly. And then I go down into my space, and I'm just like, I'm a hypocrite. But I'm telling you this because it's for your own good, and you hate me for it, and I hated my dad, and I hated, but if you listen and get this figured out now, it will save you years of heartache.
100%. And I think I've found ways to make it easier for myself too, so that it isn't a chore to tidy up, because this just happens now. I don't think about it. It just happens because I think I set it up in a way that makes it really easy to maintain, and that actually compensates or allows for my randomness and stuff to happen and all that. So I hope if I share these things, they'll help other people. I'll get them out there.
My problem is excess. Like when I get really into something, I get like all the stuff, and having all the stuff results in lots of stuff, and lots of stuff results in chaos, and it's not good. I always used to, people say your workspace reflects your mind, right? And like intelligent people have messy workspaces, and that was always my thing. Like, if my space is messy, I must be smart. And it's I can't brute force it anymore. For the longest time, I could just push through anything that came my way. And this year has really shown me what my limit is. And I still need to be able to do more. So the way I'm hoping that I can result in being able to do more is to do less of the minutia and have all of that stuff just done, and not have to focus on it, so I can focus on the things that matter. So
100% with you. Yeah, I think it's a good journey to make. I promise you it feels better at the other end. I know you're partway through it right now. You're moving offices and everything, and
it feels better the closer I get, so I can only imagine.
Well, I wanted to jump back a bit because you mentioned the milk crate and it is behind you, and please talk more about it because it's the cutest CNC I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Show us around.
This is my baby CNC router. So all right, where does this start? Okay, so this machine was born out of frustration. So, I started this machine before the Bantam desktop CNC was announced. But this was kind of built out of like frustration with the Carbide, the Nomad, or the Carv, or like all the little desktop CNC machines, the 3018. They're all good in their own way. Like the Nomad is a really good machine, but they all have limitations that I wasn't a fan of. And I really wanted a super portable kind of like sandbox CNC machine to just be able to play with, to try different controllers out on. I'm a huge fan of Linux CNC, but I also wanted to play with like some of the newer versions of Gerbil, like Gerbil HAL and the ESP32 version and the Acorn CNC controls. There's a whole bunch of really fun stuff coming out. I wanted something that I could very easily and low cost play with and not like disrupt the workflow on my 4x8 CNC or something like that. So that's how this thing was born. It is a 295 millimeter by 220 millimeter by about 60 or 70 Z work area. And it is buildable with a table saw and an Ender 3.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah.
So it's a lot easier to build if you have a CNC router available to you. But the idea was like if you have those two things, which a lot of people have access to through makerspaces or their own house or their friends, you could get started on your CNC journey. And it's built out of steel tube with MGN 12 rails, both on the x-axis and the y-axis. And the rest of the machine is all 3D printed plates. The rail placement and everything on the steel tube is done with 3D printed jigs, and center punching. And it's fully enclosed when it's completely done. I have done cuts with it completely closed, and it's super fun because all the dust stays in here.
That is perfect. That's what I need.
Yeah. And it's really quite capable. So this was the second aluminum part that I machined on it.
Oh, wow.
And it does a really, really good job for what it is. Its main limitation right now is the fact that I'm using a trim router. A
trim router like a normal one that you would just buy at a hardware store.
So this is currently sized for like the Makita trim router, or this is the Carbide Create trim router. So it's the one that comes in like the shape Boko. I've also been playing with the one that Open Builds just recently released. And the horsepower is the main limitation of the machine. The deflection from the 3D printed plates is a non-issue. And it's, these parts came out within 50 microns of being on size.
Wow. Nice.
I haven't done any sort of like steps per millimeter calibration or anything. Just, the
awesome.
Lead screw should be 200 millimeter or 200 steps per whatever. And that's what I put in, and that's where it is.
Awesome. Wow.
Yeah, so I've iterated on it like 3 times now. The next iteration should be the last one where we actually finally release the stupid thing. And
I was going to ask, how can I do this? Yeah.
So it's going to be an open source project. I'm not planning on like turning this into a product. There is a potential of some people selling a panel kit for it. We'll see. But the idea is that it will be a community supported open source project, and just be a fun little first CNC thing that will help you guys grow. This will make most of the parts that I use to build my 4x8 CNC router. So it's a build area that's big enough to help you build your next machine, which is how I eventually got to a 4x8. I built a little rock lift, then I built a bigger rock lift using that one. Then I built a 2 foot by 4 foot machine using the bigger rock lift, and then I used the 2 foot by 4 foot machine to build the 4 foot by 8 foot machine. And that iteration is what got me to where I am. It started with a machine, the build area of this one. So
gotcha.
It's an awesome little machine. It's super stout, super stiff. People have asked me about the plywood box. The plywood box isn't a problem. The 3D printed plates, everything on it's printed out of PETG. So you don't need anything special. Printing it out of nylon would be better, but like you don't have to. This whole project is built to be accessible and to be, to give you your first steps and not be intimidating.
That is really exciting because, like, I've been looking at CNC and lasers and going, oh, they look so cool, but also mega intimidating because, like, I came from a relatively non-technical background. Like, the mechanical and electrical stuff I know because I've had to troubleshoot 3D printers and stuff. So it's like, I'm from nothing pretty much. So I'm really excited about this because that looks like something, with the community and stuff around it, that I could get into and actually make work. And that's very exciting to me.
The most intimidating part of CNC is CAM. And nobody's made CAM that much easier yet. Things like easel and the open builds control software, those things have made it a little more accessible, and they're perfectly usable on this machine.
Is the CAM the toolpathing? Just so that
it's like the slicer of CNC. Computer-aided machining or manufacturing. But also the same CAM that I use to program like big, huge industrial machines, I can program this with. So there's a job skill thing that comes out of all this, and that's super powerful. So
wow, I'm kind of seeing this almost like you could do like a multi-week workshop at makerspaces and stuff, teaching people how to make one. Is that, you're nodding like this has already occurred to you? Eric
Sederberg and I have talked about it a little bit. He's already started like thinking of ways to modify the design to make it even more accessible for the workshops. I've done those with 3D printers. I'm not sure I want to do them with this, but I'm also not sure I don't. I'm just really busy at the moment, and that's probably why that sounds like a terrible idea.
Well, there's a makerspace here in Brisbane that's government funded, which is pretty cool. They might be interested in something like that. I don't know. Maybe I could connect the dots. And because they have a few CNC machines, and this would be their huge thing is about getting people into it and empowering them to go their own way, basically.
And this has some like forced skill acquisition. Like, it forces you to drill and tap steel. Like, that's not a big deal, but people think of it as such a show-stopping skill. Like, so you have to do that like 100 times on this.
Yeah, okay.
And it's not a big deal. Laying out wood for like angle cuts and stuff on a table saw. It's intimidating until you do it, and the project kind of forces you into it. And then when you're done, you now have that skill in your skill toolbox. And the next time you need it, you're like, oh, well, when I built the milk crate, I did this and this, and it worked, or it didn't. And now I know. So I'll do this. The 3D printed jigging and tooling that all this does. I use my 3D printers constantly to enable things that aren't 3D printed. My big CNC was all 3D printed jigging and punches to be able to do plates and things for processes that I didn't have big enough tools to do. And it enabled me to do all of that. So there's so much forced skill acquisition in this project that when you're done, you'll be so much more capable, even beyond just having a CNC machine.
Yeah, wow. Oh, I love it. I love it from the learning opportunity. Yeah, it's awesome. I'm decided. I'm going to build one. This is too cool. I need one. I've been wanting one for such a long time, and this just seems perfect. And the way you can enclose it and everything too, like, perfect.
It's still loud. I
have a shed. I'm lucky.
Yeah. That is like one of the things with the trim routers that kills me is I have a water-cooled spindle on my CNC. Like, this thing's loud when it cuts, and these, like, as soon as you turn them on, I forgot how loud routers are. Okay. It'll be fine. But it does such a good job.
They're awesome. They're beautiful. Oh, well done. Thank you for making it open source and sharing with everyone and all that. Like, that is a beautiful thing.
That's what makes our community great, is we're constantly willing to share. That is the one thing I think that's held like the laser cutting and the CNC community back some.
I was going to say that. Yeah.
It's kind of gatekeepy, and there's more people making money in that industry than there is in the 3D printers world. Like, people don't buy a $30,000 CNC mill to goof around in their garage. Most people. But people buy $1,000 or 3D printer to goof around in their garage. So it's a different mindset. And I want to see more projects like this. This is something that Matt and I talk about all the time. I
was going to say it's something Matt's pretty passionate about. Yeah. So Matt Stoltz is who we're talking about. Follow him on Twitter. He's great.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. And even the sharing of projects you can do with it. Like, there's no Thingiverse or PrusaPrinters.org of CNC or laser, really. Like, there's a couple of little ones, but they're not like it is with 3D printing. Yeah,
or they're like really focused around a machine. Like the Maslow has the Maslow Gardens, and I think Shapeoko has a one around theirs, or Inventables, one of the two has one around theirs, and they're really focused on the machine, and they shared like project specific files for the CAM software they use, rather than sharing like DXFs or something that is DXFs are like 2D CAD that is cuttable on a router or a laser.
Yeah. Like an SVG almost.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd really like to see somebody build the Routerverse.
Yeah.
But that's a job for somebody that's better at software than me.
Yeah, me too.
If you're that person, we should talk. I have ideas. So
let's do it. Hit him up.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, what have we talked about? Are there any projects that you've had over the years that you think like should have been, like, you thought they were really cool and they didn't get the attention you thought they should have? Like, is there anything you want to show off? Give it a second chance out in the interworld?
There's a whole bunch. But nothing that I'm like especially like we should revisit this project. Like, most of them are like, we're better off that didn't see the light of day.
Okay. like asking the question because sometimes, sometimes something was just, I don't know, it was just before its time or like sometimes like you're just really excited about something and I just like asking the question because sometimes some really cool stuff comes up.
Yeah, I had the first open source machine project called the RCL i4, which is over there on a corner with some stuff laying on it now. But it was a makerspace centric 3D printer that was a bed slinger, so like i4, i3, whatever. This was 2016, 4 years ago. It used the big box bed. It used similar leveling to the Lulzbot Taz 6. But it was a CNC routed frame, lots of laser cut components on V-slot, and all the 3D printed parts could fit the build area of one printer. It was really focused on low part count and being able to build in a couple of class sessions with a makerspace, like you just talked about. And there's 10 of them in existence. I think 4 of them work. And I learned a lot in that process. The biggest thing I learned is a class takes much longer to build something than you focused building it on your bench. So it takes me about
100%.
4 hours to build one from scratch, and it took us, I think that we had 20 hours of class time. And
not surprised. Yeah.
4 of them work. Which is what made me hesitant when people have been like, "Oh, we should do a class around the milk crate." I'm like, "Yeah, sure, you can teach it."
I think, like writing classes is writing learning content is like a whole skill of its own that I don't think is known enough. That it's a particular skill that you learn, like skill as in it's learned, not intuitive. And
people really underestimate classes.
I think they really do. Like just the ability to transfer knowledge from one person to another is not intuitive. And I guess we all kind of feel like we should be able to do it because we do tell people stuff all the time, and we we learned somewhere along the way. So, but the thinking behind it, especially for adults, is kind of involved. Yeah.
My problem was the social aspect.
Yes.
Everybody was super excited to be in the class. A lot of people were friends. Everyone was very excited about the project and wanted to see what everyone else was doing. And there wasn't a lot of like focused time on building the machine. So it really kind of fell apart there. And I should have known that was going to come. At the time I had just stopped being an adjunct professor at a college. I was a yoga instructor. Like, I knew what I was getting into teaching things.
Yeah.
But I wanted it to be fun, and I didn't want to be pushy about it. And so then the machines didn't get built, and that kind of killed it for me. So
yeah. Oh well,
yeah, it's okay.
I will just times 5 on whatever it took me to learn to make it. If we ever do a workshop, yeah, because that would be. Yes, it is. And the whole thing about learning happening in a social context too, not even just them talking to each other, but people comparing themselves to one another and people learning from each other and all that sort of stuff. Like I have done some classes like in uni on teaching, teaching really. And one of the main lessons from that was that learning happens in a social context and that you can use that to your advantage and also it can derail stuff too. So,
it can be a serious detriment or a tool.
Definitely. Oh, so cool. I wanted to touch upon it because we've mentioned a few times you've run some maker spaces. What is that like?
So I've been out of it long enough to think of it fondly again.
Yeah.
It's intense. If you're in any sort of a leadership role and you're taking it seriously, running a makerspace it's a whole lot of administrative BS and not a lot of making. Or it can be if you let it get that way. And I definitely did. but it's so empowering. I still like, I love every moment that we did the makerspace, from like the day we decided that like we're gonna try this to the day I stopped being a in a leadership role there. And it's just, all of it was so good, even the bad times. Because it's so fun to be able to look on a space like a makerspace that you're part of, and say like, I helped that person achieve their goal. In any sort of a fashion, whether it's, today I cleaned the bathroom, so that person had a clean bathroom while they were working on their project, or like, today I secured funding for the next 6 months so we can pay rent. And those are really fun. But then, like, being able to go to different communities, or be on things like this podcast and talk about your makerspace and promote it, and be able to convince people like, hey, you should come to this thing that I helped do, and you should pay us money, and for that money we will probably not give you much, but you can be part of this group of people, and this group of people will help you achieve whatever. It's so much fun. If you're thinking about starting a makerspace, you should do it. If you're thinking about starting a makerspace for profit, you should look at all the for-profit makerspaces that have existed. And I say existed because there aren't a lot that still exist.
Yeah, definitely. That melting pot of ideas and people, though, I feel that, like at the one here in Brisbane that I go to quite regularly, pre-COVID times, though it's open again now because thankfully we're doing quite well here. There are so many people there with such different backgrounds, and no matter what you want to do, there's someone who knows a whole heap about it, at least one person who knows a whole heap about it, and will tell you everything there is to know about that thing, which is just, it's wonderful. And I have this hypothesis that truly brilliant, truly creative things happen at that interchange between fields and people's realms of knowledge. Like that's where the really sparkly, awesome leap forward stuff happens, is when people with really different backgrounds get together and work on something. It just comes up with the coolest stuff. And so they're just magical places, I think.
And that's what makes makerspaces so powerful, is they're really empowering to people that have never felt that empowerment before, right? So I think there's a lot of possibilities in somebody who has never done something trying something completely out of their realm, like an accountant going to invent something because or like go weld something or something, because they don't know what they shouldn't do, so they go try. And like, that's how all the really good discoveries happen, right? It's like, well, I didn't know I shouldn't do that, so I just tried it and it worked.
Yeah, they're not tempered by how it's already done. And totally agree.
And I find myself naysaying a lot now, and I really try hard not to. I really try to catch myself when I do, because when you naysay somebody, you're gatekeeping. You're taking that empowerment away, and it's like, that's not what we're here for, right? We're here to help people, and we're here to let them grow and to learn on their own and break things, or figure it out. And that's where all that learning happens. And I'm constantly impressed by the people in our makerspace with like the creativity that they have, the things they come up with, the stuff that they do that I just would never do. The other day, a guy with laser cut like a 4-foot tall Eiffel Tower. Like, why? But that's amazing. Like, I wouldn't do that. But I'm really glad that you did. That's incredible. It was, it's always super cool to see the things that people come up with that are so far outside your realm.
Totally. I completely agree. Yeah, even though I don't make stuff normally when I go to the makerspace, I just love seeing what everyone's up to. Yeah, it's inspiring. Yeah.
When we started River City Labs, I had every tool I wanted at the time in my garage. So starting River City Labs wasn't about like starting a makerspace so I could have access to these things. It was about starting something to give everybody else access to the things that I loved. So we could make things together. And for the longest time, for like 4 years, we didn't have any tools. Nothing worked in our makerspace. We went from like a closet, like an idea, and meeting in each other's houses to a literal closet, to a 400 square foot room, to a 2-story, 120-year-old building, and then like to a commercial building that we're in now. And the first 3 iterations, like people were paying us dues to just come hang out and talk about stuff that they wanted to do or the things that they were doing in their own shop. And that was really powerful to like see the interest level, even though we weren't able to really offer them anything other than a place to like socialize. And that was interesting because I had no idea how social antisocial people could be when you get them in a group of people like them.
Yeah.
They don't shut up.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. So. It's like it was all just bubbling away under there, waiting to come out at the right moment, and you created the right moment for them.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
The one thing I will say is makerspaces can be a bevy of personnel issues if you're not prepared for it. Because all of those antisocial people or like engineering people were all weird. And that weirdness comes out in some interesting ways sometimes. And it like creates like interpersonal conflicts and all kinds of stuff. So like, if you're going to the makerspace, my advice to anybody is to just please have an open mind about the people that you meet and their intentions, because everybody
they will be weird.
Well.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah.
And if they don't, and you like tell somebody, most of the time it'll get taken care of. And sometimes they're just like, yeah, that's how Larry is. Just, everyone just tries to like hang out and let him do his thing. And like, you should maybe try that too. Because he doesn't mean terrible. Yeah, I don't know.
It's a hard thing to deal with too. Like, I don't know. I've never run a makerspace, but the subreddit, I was a very active moderator on there. The Discord is pretty sweet. It kind of takes care of itself. It's got a really healthy thing going on. But the Reddit definitely, interesting and difficult. And the social stuff was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just like,
engineers
are we really having this conversation? Yeah. Like, wow, I thought equality happened a little while ago, and that changed my mind. Yeah, so it can be really interesting at times. And interesting to navigate. But like if you have the right people and who care about that sort of stuff, and when you raise it, they do something about it, it makes it all the much better. And you also educate that person who's being disruptive as to, potentially why they have very little friends or why they don't have a partner or all these things, you're like, maybe consider these things, and maybe, and it actually teaches them something too, hopefully, that's the end. You don't want to like on Reddit, my goal was never ban those awful people. My goal was always try and turn those people around so that they live better, fuller, happier lives, because we are social creatures at the end of the day. And I think everyone wants to get along. It's just some people don't necessarily know where they're going wrong.
My experience with the makerspace is like, if you end up with a good community, it will police itself.
Exactly.
We only ended up with one member that we thought we were going to have to kick out, but he quit the night that like the thing happened that we were like, oh God, we got to kick him out. And But later that night, we got his email of like, I'm canceling my membership. And we're like, oh, thank God. That problem fixed itself.
Yeah, I think in real life it's harder to be as awful as people can be on Reddit.
That guy managed it.
Wow. Oh,
yeah.
God.
Yeah, I'm not even exaggerating. Like, take the worst of Reddit, and that was that dude.
Oof. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you don't have to deal with that anymore. Oh, this has been lovely, lovely, lovely. I know we're really only scratching the surface at who you are and what you do, but is there anything else you want to talk about tonight, whatever time it is?
No, I'd say like probably like the biggest thing that I've found like over the years that has helped me is networking. Like, it's really like you asked the project that that never really got noticed. You know what? There is one. I did a really cool fan shroud and mount for the Chimera for the lulz bots, and it didn't get near the attention I wanted. I think it's probably.
Do you have some links? We'll pop them in the description.
it was cool, and I worked hard on that. Anyway, the biggest thing is like it's not what you know, but it's who you know. Like that saying, like that has been kind of massive for me, and it helps that like I've done things too, but being that kind of social in the right times in the right places and always go to the after party. That's like my biggest tip. If you want to like get to know more people and grow your community, always go to the after party. And there's always an after party, like trade shows and all that stuff. You're never done at 3:00. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Nobody grows their community or nobody grows their network like on the floor. You know, it's always with a slice of pizza and a beer in your hand later, or like
when you become proper friends, like yeah.
I've ended up in some very strange conversations after things like Murph or IMTS, which is the International Machine Tool Show. It's very strange, but they have often resulted in future opportunities that are still playing out, and resulted in future employment opportunities, and like that network, and like always being friendly and following up and working to be insightful. It plays so much into that. Everybody remembers the asshole, and not fondly. So that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. Well, I totally agree. Like, I don't get many opportunities to go to after parties in this sort of realm. I don't think I've been to after parties since I was in the theatre, actually, now that I think about it. But yeah, I don't get many opportunities being in Australia, basically. But yeah, totally agree with just making connections with people and not being afraid to just talk to people. Like, I just talk to people all the time on Twitter. I'm just like, hello.
Yeah.
And just talk to them like they're already your friend. And like, pretty much that day, you can become friends. Like, within a couple of hours, really. It doesn't take long to make a new friend. Yeah.
And remembering that everybody's human, and staying humble. Like, that's a hard one, right? Like,
really? I think you do that too much. You don't talk enough about how cool you are.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I deal really, really hard with like imposter syndrome. Like, I'm constantly just like, why are we doing this podcast? Who am I? Why are we doing this YouTube show, or why are we doing these? Like, who am I to be doing this stuff? Right. But then also, like, you have to like remember that fire performance taught me this. You don't ever have to be nervous when you're going out in front of people or like public speaking or whatever, because those people are there to see you. Like, there's a reason you got brought into that. So go do that thing. You know, be the expert in whatever it is, or be the performer for the situation. But, you know, also everybody remembers the asshole. Like, you know, being
be kind.
Yeah. I don't know. Parting thoughts.
I love it. No, I love it. And I totally agree. Like, yeah, definitely. And I think, like you said, there's a lot of antisocial people in this sphere of making. And it's a good message to give them, to just be like, don't be afraid to chat to people. Because, yeah, they probably also want people to talk about their passions with, you know? Like, you want to talk, they probably do too. Yeah.
I've made a lot of friends with people that I didn't think I was going to make friends with by just being human.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. I love it. Beautiful. Well, what's next for you in the next couple of months? We've got the milk crate.
So, I don't like jinxing things.
Okay.
And, like, this often hurts me because, like, I don't talk enough about the things, the opportunities that I've gotten, and, like, the things that I've done. But it's looking very much like I may be a beta tester for a robot pretty soon.
That's exciting. What kind of robot?
Tormach. Tormach came out, just launching a robot arm in June. Yeah, so
exciting.
If everything goes to plan, I'll have that later this week. And also potentially a mill. So, like, you know, when we talk about, like, big things changing in my shop and, like, moving my office, I am also having to, like, move machines out so I can move machines in. And this is huge for me because it's a really big upscale in my capabilities in my shop. But also, this is the other piece of advice. When you have opportunities for networking, like, this kind of goes into the after party, don't pass them up. Like, so that, you know, I've been given the opportunity to do this beta testing, and this is a really big networking opportunity for me. So I'm going to do my best to not suck.
You won't. It'll be awesome.
Hopefully.
That's so exciting.
So, yeah. And, you know, like I said earlier, when I was in research robotics, that led me to this opportunity. So a guy I worked with in that research community introduced me to the CEO of Tormach, and we've been discussing this for like 2 years now in, like, various other projects. And, you know, now we're finally at this point, and, like, it's going to pay off. So
that's awesome.
Hopefully. And then other future things, Makers on Tap is starting YouTube stuff.
I saw that. That's so exciting.
So we did our first video that turned out really bad.
It wasn't. You seem to have lots of technical difficulties, though, which is a thing. This show is so cursed. There's so much editing that goes on because every time there are huge technical issues.
Yeah, you'll get past those, and so will we. We already bought new microphones, and so then the next episode we're doing on Between Two Makers is the Daedalus.
Yes,
we'll be not reviewing, but discussing. I don't want to get into this review world, but I have really strong opinions about things, and I'm going to share them. But the Daedalus is, like, awesome.
Yeah. It's incredible.
It's stupid fast. Like, 6 times faster than the printer that's sitting next to it. That's also more expensive. So
wow, awesome. I will definitely be watching that because, yeah, I love Joseph. He's awesome, and the Daedalus is amazing. Like, yeah, beautiful,
we socially
beautiful
distantly
printer.
hung out this morning, and it was great.
Yes, that's awesome.
And what else is new? those are the big things. The milk crate's going to be a big launch. Well, writing the documentation is going to be a big chunk of time. But I have some really awesome people helping me with that. Aaron Peterson from Makers on Tap and Adam Hiley of Dreadmaker Adam on Twitter are both helping me do documentation for it. That's and they're keeping me on task, which is like real helpful. Being good friends.
Yeah, we need that. We need that. Us ADHD types. We need someone to sort us out a little bit.
It's well past the point where I normally give up on projects. So the fact that I'm like still doing it and still excited about it is a really big deal. I've solved the problems. It's a functional machine. It's way past done for me. So the fact that we're like still pushing on this and banging on it is pretty cool.
That's awesome. Oh, I'm so excited for you. That's awesome. Yeah. Where can people follow? Where can people follow you, your work, the things you're involved in?
Twitter, I am Joe Spanier Makes. And Instagram, I am nemesis.robotics. Those are probably the two main ones to follow. And then also Makers on Tap on both Twitter and Instagram.
And YouTube now.
Yeah, and YouTube. And then keep an eye on my Instagram and probably our YouTube in the next couple weeks. I'll be posting lots of stuff as machines come and shop changes. So
heck yeah. Awesome. And I've started asking this question too. Are there any communities that you're a part of that have been really helpful to you that you'd like to just say are really cool that maybe other people might be interested in?
So River City Labs actually has a $5 membership to our Slack.
Wow.
And that's massive. We've got people all over the world on our Slack that have been really great. The Makers on Tap Discord is a really awesome, super supportive place. We've got a channel for the milk crate going now. We've got a channel for tool changing 3D printers. And then our MOT and Friends channel is just a constant thread of support and also heckling, which is just ultra fun. The Friday night maker calls that you and I are a part of with Matt have been massive, both with the people that I've met and just like the support you guys give. Like, it's a really awesome community to be a part of. And I think those are the main ones that are still active.
Yeah, so. Awesome. Yeah, that's Matt Stoltz's call. We mentioned him earlier. He announces it on Twitter every Friday, and it's totally open, and it's a Zoom call. It's not streamed. You can just join. Yeah, you just have to sign up each week. And yes, I totally agree. Awesome. I don't know what I would have done this year without that community. Like, kept me going, I think.
It's kept a lot of people going. I feel bad because I always called in late.
You have kids to put to bed and stuff.
And that's the thing. Like, it's everybody's superhuman. I keep saying that, but it's a really big deal to remember that like all the people, all the makers, everybody that you follow on the world, they hide it well, but they're all humans too, with their own struggles and their own problems, and they're still doing stuff. I've
cried on that call before.
I'm still doing stuff.
Wow, blows my mind.
So like you should do stuff too.
Yeah, do stuff too. Should we do the Makers on Tap exit?
Yes.
You do it. Well, should we do it on 3?
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me on, Billy. This has been a ton of fun.
Thank you for coming on. Yeah, I'm finally repaying the favor.
It's fun to be on the other side of the microphone. It makes me feel less bad about rambling.
That's what you're here for. That's what we're all here for. Yeah.
All right,
and it's been awesome.
Keep making stuff.
Keep making stuff. Thank you, Joe. I am loving making this series, and if you are too, please support me on Patreon so I can keep making more. Top supporters will appear in this list of legends, and the topmost supporter gets a special shout out. So thank you, Loyal Moses. You are absolutely wonderful. I know you don't only support me, but so many others in the community, and you're awesome for it. Thank you. You can meet another maker here, and here's a video YouTube thinks you'll like. If you want to catch up with any of us, all our socials are in the description below. See you later!